This is the missing ingredient in your game development workflows. Everything that game devs need to create content, assets, and code, all in one convenient place. AI has unlocked amazing new development tools for game devs. The problem is that they're fragmented. They don't have cohesive pipelines, cohesive workflows. The raw ingredients are there, but they're not fast and easy, and they don't produce game-ready assets. And that is why I created the Sorceress Game Creation Suite, because there's amazing technologies out there that are unlocking game development to people who didn't think they would ever be able to imagine and create the games perhaps they've always dreamed about creating because of steep learning curves with Unreal Engine, Unity, coding, and asset creation. These are all now possible for the solo game developer. And what Sorceress does is it takes what is now possible for the solo developer to accomplish and it makes it convenient. Because yes, amazing new AI power tools are available, but it doesn't mean they're convenient, doesn't mean they're fast and easy to use. And not only that, usually you need to jump around across a half a dozen platforms in order to access all these tools. That is where the Sorceress Game Creation Suite steps in. Let's take a look at the suite. The suite has become loaded with all sorts of game development tools, from Autosprite, which lets you convert an AI image into AI video and then turn that AI video animation into a game-ready sprite sheet. We've got 3D Studio, where you can generate 3D models, automatically rig them, and then generate animations using text-to-animation AI. Export to your favorite game engine. It's a super fast and easy workflow. We've also got the brand new Voxel Studio, where you can generate voxel characters, voxel assets, trees, rocks, characters. You can animate them. We've also got a really cool procedural walk rigging system. And then we've got TruePixel, where you can convert your images or videos into pixel art animations and pixel art graphics. There's also the new Sound Studio, where you can generate AI music, AI sound effects. You can generate AI text-to-speech using natural voices, and you can even clone your own voice to create a lifelike AI version of your own voice. Welcome to the Sorceress Game Creation Suite. We've got the Tileset Forge, where you can generate raw AI art and then detect the tiles within that art that's been generated and then convert it into a game-ready tile set. There is the 3D to 2D tool, which is really cool if you want to take a 3D animation and convert it into a 2D pixel art character, a 2D animation sprite. And of course, we've got all sorts of different AI image generation models from Nano Banana Pro, GPT Image 2.0, all the latest and the greatest. And then we've got AI Video Gen. Once again, all the best models are available here from Seedance 2, Kling 3, WAN 2.7, Grok Imagine. And then we've got our Material Forge, where you can generate AI materials. So you generate an AI material, run it through Material Forge, and you'll be able to create surfaces such as glass or water or bricks or stone or whatever sort of material that you need. Export it to your favorite game engine, use it in vibe coding environments. And then we have a very cool procedural walk 3D animation system, where you can automatically rig up your characters with procedural walk. This is a very cool way of creating animation because it automatically detects the surface of the environment that you're walking around on. Your character reaches from surface, detects where it's supposed to put its feet. And then of course we have Wizard Genie, which is our game engine. It's a dedicated game engine for vibe coding games. You know, instead of using Unreal Engine or Unity or whatever, you go straight to Wizard Genie and you start vibe coding. You create exactly the game you want, exactly the sort of style. You want to create a voxel game, you create a voxel game. A 3D game, okay, great. A 2D platformer, sure, you can do that too. The beautiful thing about AI-assisted vibe coding is that you can create any kind of game. And then from there, we have all sorts of additional tools in the Sorceress Game Creation Suite. We're going to take a look at most of those here today in brief, quick format. Let's dive into today's video. Let's take a look at how Autosprite works. It's as simple as this. Here's the flow. You start by creating a character, put it in the starting position that you want to animate it from. That's using the image generation features of the Sorceress Suite. Next, you will take that animation starting frame, use it as a reference, and then you can describe what sort of animation that you want, stepping forward, making a block attack, making a punch, whatever the case may be. Then what we do is we send this video over to Autosprite, and process all of those frames. And then we use the corridor key system on our local GPU to process all of those sprites. You can also use a cloud GPU. This process will nicely clean your green screen, and from here we can send this over to Sprite Analyzer. From Sprite Analyzer we can determine which of the frames we want to actually save and play in our final animation, and then we can export our sprite sheet. This is now a character we can use in our 2D game. Look at the 3D Character Studio. The process is very similar. We're going to first start out by generating up an image of our character. You can of course bring your own 3D model to the 3D Studio if you only want to do rigging and animation. So I've generated up this character here. You can use one of any of the different models that are available. Basically, these are all the best models in one place. We've got Hunwan 3.1, Meshi 6, Trellis 2, Rodin 2, and Trippo 3.1, basically all the latest and the greatest models available in one place. I find that the different 3D AI generator models are not necessarily greater than or equal to each other, but they tend to produce different results depending on your starting source image. Here we have the Meshi 6 version, here we have the Trippo 3.1 version, and here we have the Hunwan version. In this case, it just so happens that I think that the Trippo version came out the best, but this is not always the case. Sometimes Hunwan does the best job and sometimes Meshi does the best job. Let's rig up our character. This is super quick and easy. I'm going to first optimize the model to 200,000 triangles. That's a lot. You can make it much more small and efficient than that, but I'm going to go for high detail in this example. We send the model over to the rigging section, and we click to rig character. Then we just need to assign the top of the head, the chin, the base of the neck, the pelvis, the shoulder, the elbow, the wrist, the knee, and the ankle points. That will build us our skeleton. And if we're unhappy with any of the placement of bones and joints, we can easily tweak those around. Let's go ahead and compute the weights on this character. And then from here we send our character over to animate. Now this is extremely cool because we can do text to animation prompts. So I could say a person does a strong front kick. A person is waving with their right hand. A person is walking, whatever the case may be. I've got a couple of animations saved here we can preview. So for example, here's a nice little walk loop. As you can see, there's actually a little bit of a glitch in this one, so I've built in a bunch of different tools. So for example, when creating animations with text animation, you'll often get nearly what you want with a few tweaks needed. So I've added this nice little smooth loop feature. So here we can see the loop before the smooth loop feature has a little bit of a glitch as it finds its starting frame and its end frame loop. So we enable smooth loop, and now we have like a nice little tweening of frames. And that's kind of the idea behind the 3D Character Studio, to amalgamate and combine all the tools that you need in order to get your character game ready super fast. So we've got a few animations that just completed generating, and the timeline feature down here, for example. Now this is about a 3-second long animation that plays over and over, and then it hits that little hiccup at the end. It's not a perfectly smooth loop, so 3D Studio will help you find a way to make it really easy. So I've added this handy little ghost frame feature, so you can kind of like cycle through, okay, there's step 1, step 2, and now it comes back to the beginning, and it looks like right about here is where the loop would actually be. So I take the end frame, put it there, and we'll hide that ghost frame, and let's see, have we got a nice smooth animation loop? Yeah, basically. Let's see, take away a frame, add a frame. There we go. That looks pretty smooth. And if it wasn't, if there was a little hiccup at the end, actually we've already got smooth loop turned on. There we go. You see how there's a little hiccup at the end normally? That's what smooth loop is for. Now we have a nice smooth walk cycle, and we can also make little adjustments to it. So let's say I wanted the hand to be in a different position. Maybe this is like meant to be a shooter game or something. That's no problem. We can actually just adjust that around, and now the hand position is going to change for the rest of the animation. Maybe we want the head to be a little bit different. We can twist the bones a little bit. Maybe she's looking to the right as she walks, or whatever the case is. Little tiny tweaks you can make to the base animation that AI generates, and when you're all done and happy, you can export to Unreal Engine, Unity, whatever. It works in any game engine format, vibe coding, etc. And I have found that text animation features actually work pretty well. Here I requested a rifle walking animation. Here we've got a happy little dance loop. Here we've got a swimming animation, which I think came out pretty good. I've added actually a few features in to make certain animations. So for example, swimming animation kind of goes up and down like this, right? So I've added in this handy little hip lock feature, so you just get a nice locked in place animation. There's a couple other ones like that. I've also added IK handgun markers. Basically, these work sort of like magnets, right? So the rest of the animation will stay and play the same, but your character's hand will be attracted towards an IK gun. So if you're trying to create a character for like a first-person shooter, you're going to want stability in your character's hand. So what we can actually do here is even lock that hand position with the IK hand lock. So now the character's hand's going to stay perfectly stable. That's a little bit of an awkward position, I know. We can actually go ahead and twist this hand into place so that it's actually, you know, kind of going to be holding the rifle. And then we've got this perfectly fixed in place hand position for holding your FPS gun, whilst the rest of the arm animation plays as normal. So, and you can of course do that on the left and the right, or one or the other, and you can lock those up and get those sort of perfect positioned hands for your whatever you're carrying, whatever your character's holding. And that's a look at 3D Character Studio. Overall, I've been very impressed with the animations that you get back, and only 2 cents per animation. You can't argue with that too much. And next we're going to take a look at the Voxel Studio. This I think is a rather unique feature to the Sorcerous Game Creation Suite. It works very much like the 3D Studio in that you start with a reference image and you generate a voxelized character out of that. Now this is a high detail voxelized character made up of voxels. Voxels are super cool. They are what Minecraft uses. Of course, voxels in Minecraft are much bigger, but you can also adjust the resolution. So here we have a different resolution, 97, and you can adjust this down to any sort of resolution that you want. We have a much more basic looking voxelized character. We'll take a look at a few examples here. High detail, high detail. Here we have a not copyright at all, AT Walker, maybe a little copyright. I think that the voxel process actually does a really cool job of like robotic characters and creatures, like this 6-legged or 2-legged mech character. I think that one came out pretty cool. Here we have a Space Marine for a game that I'm working on, a nice looking palm tree. Of course allows you to manipulate voxels. You can add voxels, remove voxels, paint voxels. You can do whatever you want after they're done generating, or you can just create your own custom art if you want. Then also really cool, we can send this over into Humanoid Rig, and this works very much the same as the 3D rigging system in that we place a few markers down. We got our elbow, we got our wrist, we got our knee joint, and our ankle joint, and then we can create a skeleton. This gives us a weight painting for the voxels. Now we can adjust these weight paints manually by hand. We've got some handy little weight painting features. So I could select a part that I want to adjust weights for, and there's actually a handy little feature. So okay, maybe I thought those arms came out too big. You can see I can easily adjust around the weights. Maybe the torso here isn't actually high enough. Very easy. We can actually just increase the height of that torso so that it is well, complete. So now we have something like a nice rough approximate weight map. I could tweak that around a little bit more. Let's go ahead but send this over to the Animate tab. Now this is also utilizing our text to animation system that we previously covered in the, oops, I forgot to spread apart those so I forgot to spread that pelvis. Let's go back. We can make a little tweak here. Let's adjust the pelvis, which rigged a little too close. That's no problem. We can head over to the rig section and adjust the bones, and then let's go back over to animate over here, and that's a real-time adjustment. Now the pelvis is nice and the legs are in roughly good positions, and actually I think that animation came out pretty cool. So we've got our Duke Nukem Doom type character there. That's one way to do animations. Of course, there's all sorts of different animations you can do. This is text to animation, so basically anything you type in becomes an animation, and you have all the same features here like smooth loop, reverse loop, ghost, and stuff like that that you had in the 3D Character Studio. In addition to that, we can actually take a multi-leg creature, and this is actually super duper cool. Very much in the same way we place down the markers. We place marker, 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 marker. I won't show you that again. Very easy. There's a guided placement system for how to select your legs and your joints when setting up a multi-leg procedural character. Then we can send this procedural rig character over to the procedural rig animation section, and you have your procedural walk character, you can adjust all of the different things like how fast he moves forward, how fast he turns, all sorts of different fine-tuning options to adjust that walk cycle. Going to send him over to a simulated test environment here. You can try a tropical island or a desert test environment to see what your character is going to look like with lighting and all that sort of stuff. And at the moment, the procedural walk system exports to Three.js, so perfect for vibe coding. Game developers, coming soon, Unity and Unreal Engine, and coming soon to Wizard Genie Game Editor is actually a voxel world generator where you can generate up a procedural world using the assets that you create in the Voxel Studio. Next up, we have a look at the TruePixel tool. This takes any video or image and converts it into a pixel art equivalent. We have the original video on the right, we have the TruePixel equivalent. Now you can change the resolution on that TruePixel equivalent from very old style like Space Quest 1 style art, pixel art, and then you can up the resolution even to make it look almost like the original. Backgrounds removed automatically from your chroma key. You can convert a photograph or an illustration into a pixel art equivalent to create something like a Sierra or King's Quest style background. The process is super simple. Generate up a character and then convert it into a video animation. Send that video over onto TruePixel. We remove the background. We now have our pixel art character that we can download as a sprite sheet that we can use in our game. Let's take a look at Sound Studio next. This includes sound effects generation, speech generation, music generation, as well as a handy audio editor tool where you can quickly and easily drag, drop, and trim clips, add reverb, add effects, make little modifications to what your finished sound effect is like. So, for example, the way to create a sound effect is to type in the prompt. Let's listen to a couple of examples here. Now, if you've ever done sound effects for a game, you understand the pain of searching through endless sound packs to try to find something that sounds kind of a little bit like what you're looking for. Instead of that, just type in and describe the sound effect that you want, and get it. It's such a nice workflow. We also have music generation, and this produces some phenomenal results. You can generate with lyrics or without lyrics. Let's listen to a few examples here. So you can, of course, create with any lyrics that you want, any genres that you want. You can use male, female voices. You can actually take a song that you like a part of and you can extend it from a certain point. So you might want to create a totally custom song using bits and pieces. You can mash up multiple tracks together to create a new variation of that song. Or you can make a cover of a song that you like, but maybe you want to hear it in a different genre. With Music Gen, you're going to be able to create any song that you need for your game. You can use it wherever you like. You're not going to get copyright strikes on YouTube if you use any of your music in there. You can upload it to Spotify, to iTunes. It's basically your track. AI generated music is so useful, so powerful, and actually produces such great results. It's honestly all I really listen to these days. I create my own songs, I create my own playlists. Let's take a look at Speech Gen. Here I've got a couple of cloned voices, but you can also use any number of the default realistic human-like voices that come preloaded with the speech generation features. But like I said, this is a cloned voice that I've got over here. Let's take a look and see how that sounds. Welcome to the Sorceress Game Creation Suite. AI-powered tools and workflows to help unlock all areas of game development. And then finally, there is the sound effect editor tool. So here we have a laser sound effect that was generated up, but we have a big tail at the end. No problem. Sound effects editor just lets us grab the part of the clip that we want and we can save that. No need for external programs, just exactly the amount of sound that we need. We can add some fade in, some equalizer, distortion, stereo, a bunch of different sound effects tools are available. Just a super fast, quick, and easy workflow to get the sounds into your games without any fuss or hassle. Let's take a look at the Tileset Forge 2. One of the things that AI can do very well is it generates up like a grid of various tile sets. This is Nano Banana version 2, being asked to generate a sort of like simple 2D forest tile set. Here's a few more variations. Basically what you do here is you ask AI to generate up a tile set with a little bit of space between each tile. The space is critical, the space is important. Let's grab one of these. Then we upload to Tileset Forge. We take out that chroma key and we detect the available tiles on the screen. This grabs every tile that's in the main single image and it turns it into an individual tile. Then we move on over to the build panel and we actually use the tiles that we want in our final tile sheet, and then we can make little tweaks to these tiles. So for example, maybe this one needs to be a little bit wider in order to not have that little tile seam. And basically what we're doing here is we're deciding how all the tiles that we want in our actual game are going to fit together. All sorts of little tools, like I say, to make adjustments to how these tiles look, little things to make sure that they're seamless and that they're displaying how we want them to display when we finally bring these over into our game. Tiny tweaks and adjustments to make it easy to put together a tile set that's going to be seamless. When we're finally done, we download our tile set and then we can import that into any game, Unreal Engine, Unity, or use it in a vibe coding environment. This example here is from an Unreal Engine tutorial that I did using the tile sets. Basically, you just paint them into place. You create your sprite character with Auto Sprite, and you put together your tile set with Tileset Forge, and you've got your 2D game. Next up, we have the 3D to 2D tool. This is where you can actually upload any 3D animation and convert it into a 2D sprite sheet from any direction. So here we've got one of the pre-built-in views. You can select from any of the pre-built-in views, or you can create your own totally custom view if you want front on, if you want side view, if you want, 8 directions, 16 directions, whatever the case may be. You'll get each one of those back as an animated sprite sheet. So let's take a little test drive on this character. This one's already set up with the 8-directional movement cycle. Now, if you've ever done any 2D animation, you'll probably know how long this usually takes to create 8-directional movement for a character. But when you convert a 3D animation into an 8-directional 2D artwork, it happens in mere moments, seconds, really, less than a minute. You can convert your 2D animation into a 3D character. Let's zoom in a little bit. And I think the results are quite good. Bunch of different options that you can configure with, of course, such as edge enhancement, temporal smoothing, and various other things like that. That's the 3D to 2D tool. Next up, we have the image generation features that are included in the Sorceress suite. The nice thing about the image generation features in Sorceress is that you can actually select multiple models that you want to generate with. So for example, let's say I want to try a pixel art cat warrior. I don't know which image generation model is going to do the best. No problem. I'll just select one of each and generate everything up at the same time. Different models have their different strengths and weaknesses, and you can configure all the various settings for each of the models in the Sorceress suite. Not all image generators give you those options, but some of the options, for example, GPT Image 2 has a low quality setting, medium and high. If you use the low quality setting, it's much cheaper to generate up an image. So here we go. We've got all the different variations, and you can see this one was like Grok Imagine, Grok Imagine, Grok Imagine, and then we've got Nano Banana 2, we've got Z Image, we got GPT Image 2 is still coming up, but the point is you can compare art styles and you can see what works best for your particular use case. So for example, something like Seedream 5 or Seedream 4.0 are really good at doing people and using reference images to create consistent humans. Oh, and by the way, we have the uncensored version of Seedream and Z Image. Just saying. Moving on next to our AI video generation tool, what we've done is we've actually made this tool suite optimal for game devs, and that's because, for example, a lot of the models that you'll get on other sites won't let you set the duration of your animation. But what I found, for example, Grok Imagine Video on Grok/Imagine itself only lets you do a 5-second animation. Actually, it's capable of a 1-second duration animation, which happens to be fairly perfect when it comes to creating a repeating walk loop or a kick or something like that. So we let you set whatever duration you want on the different video models. And so this is actually an underrated feature for game developers, because usually if an AI video generation model has too many seconds to work with, instead of getting that nice little repeating loop that you're looking for, the AI video generation model is going to try to fill all of those extra seconds with an animation that you're probably not trying to get. Usually when you're doing game dev animations, you just want a nice little repeating loop, walk cycle, attack, or whatever. So the power of being able to set a shorter duration is really, really helpful for that, not only in saving cost, but also in getting what you're trying to get a lot easier. And then, of course, from the Sorceress Suite, we actually have access to all of the best top-tier models, Kling 3.0, Seed Dance, Juan, Grok Imagine. All the best models are here. What I usually do is I put the best models that are also not stupidly priced. There are some models out there that might be as good as some of these models, but they might be stupidly priced. So what I do is I filter out the best, most capable models that are also the most reasonable cost, and that's what I make available. I would call it the most useful models that do the best job. Best job, best price. Next, we're going to take a look at the Material Forge. This is where we can actually generate up any sort of material simply with a text prompt. For example, give me a tree bark. And we've got our tree bark material. You can adjust all sorts of configurations, roughness, metallic, etc. You can also even chat with your AI agent and say, hey, make it a little darker, make it a little bit more transparent, make it more metallic, whatever. And your AI agent will actually make the little adjustments for you with all the different details for the material. You can export to Unreal Engine, Unity. This works in basically any game engine. You can create materials with transparency, stylized materials such as this nice little water, handy little preview window to see how your material will look in a variety of different settings, see if it's a seamless repeating tile. And basically, the sky is the limit. Whatever sort of a material you can imagine, whatever sort of material you need, generate it up. Extremely cheap to generate materials, and yeah, they're game ready to go. Next up, we have the 3D Procedural Walk tool. This allows you to rig up a multi-legged creature with procedural walk and then generate procedural animations for that character. There are all sorts of different movement sliders you can adjust to fine-tune the character's movement cycle, but basically procedural walk is very cool because it actually has the character detect the surface that it is walking on. For example, it's going to try to reach across surfaces if there's nothing to step on, climbing stairs, traversing distances. So procedural walk is a very interesting way to create character animations without needing to generate up a specific animation for each sort of scenario. And here we have a look at the Wizard Genie game engine. You can try this via the web. You can also download the desktop client. It is available as an early access release. I would call it functional, but with lots left to do. Here we're taking a look at Battlecraft. This is a game that I've been working on. Hope to have it in early access soon, but basically via the Wizard Genie coding agent, you have access to all the best coding models from Opus to GPT to Gemini. We've got all the best ones there. DeepSeek 4, Flash, and Pro were just added. Very capable and affordable coding models. So lots to show in Wizard Genie. I won't actually get into it too deep here, but in fact, it's sort of its own dedicated video. It's not included in the Sorceress Game Creation Suite, but it is something that synergizes with the Sorceress Game Creation Suite, because through Wizard Genie, you actually have access to all of these Sorceress tools that you normally get through the web. And you can also, and it's very easy to drag and drop these into your project folder. So you basically have your asset creation via Sorceress, and then you've got Wizard Genie, which handles your coding, and I'm adding in a bunch of really cool features such as the Voxel Builder tool. We've got Model Studio, which is primitive and early right now. We've got Three.js and Phaser VFX generation, so hopefully in the near future we'll be able to generate up a variety of different visual effects. Or some already in place, but I'm hoping to make this agentic very soon. So yeah, Wizard Genie has a lot coming, and you can get early access to it. You can actually try it on the web, like I say, or download a desktop version. Anyway, gentlemen and ladies, that is a look at all the major tools in the Sorceress Game Creation Suite. There are indeed even more minor tools such as Sprite Analyzer, Slicer, Seamless Tile Gen, Quick Sprites. There's a bunch of additional tools in the suite that we didn't cover in this video. You can look around. Gentlemen and ladies, this has been a look at the Sorceress Game Creation Suite. I will link it in the description below. You can get early supporter pricing right now. That includes a one-time payment, lifetime payment, $49. This will not last forever. This is an early supporter. I appreciate you guys who have supported me during the creation of this suite, all the encouragement. And for those of you who are wondering, AI generative tools do require some generation credits. I basically marked those down to base API use rates, so there's almost no markup on those. I want to make this extremely affordable for game developers, so old classic software style one-time lifetime payment. Like I say, that may not last forever. This has been our original plan ever since we first launched with just Autosprite version 2, and we have so many tools now. At some point this might change. Just saying. For now it's available. So check out the Sorcerous Game Creation Suite, and I will see you guys in the Discord channel. Hop on over if you have any questions. And alright, happy game dev, guys. See you guys later.